So I wonder if the buff is a bigger buff for Doom Tower than it is for us. Controversial. Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is another raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, we're bringing out the King. The King's coming out to play. For those that were around, how long ago was this? I don't even know when this was from now. The original Battle Pass Season 1, and when we're talking, it's got to be over 12 months ago. Basically, Raid launched a Battle Pass, and the big bad boy prize back in the day was Wurlim Frostking. Looks like the Lich King. Anyone who's played World of Warcraft, there's a bit of nostalgia here. And everyone was like, we hope he is amazing. He looks super cool. The Frost King. And you had to complete a whole bunch of challenges. It was actually a really great Battle Pass. It was the most, the best thing you could ever spend money on in this game. They did it once, and they've never done it again. Apparently, it didn't work. Apparently, it cost some players. I don't understand it. Anyway, Wurlim Frostking, a thing of the past. Well, not for me. Not for me. I've got 4. I got him from the Battle Pass. I got 2 more, and then I got another one. 4. He's my most, the most dupes of any champion for me of legendaries is Wurlim. And up until recently, he's been completely trash, fairly unusable. So, they've given him a rework. First thing we got to say is, he looks super sweet, yeah? Right the way through, I've loved, apart from maybe this silly cape, but I've loved the visual on this guy. He looks like he should be completely badass, right? So, let's hope he is now. Let's hope he is. What have they done then? They've improved his A1 a little bit. So, he's now got a chance to place a freeze on his A1, 50% if you book it out. This is the skill I'd say, if you can get away with not booking this skill, I wouldn't book this skill. But the other 2 skills I think you probably should book. So what's going on here? If he does place a freeze, your champion with the lowest HP will get Perfect Veil for 2 turns. Actually a really cool idea of a mechanic, because you choose, certainly initially at least, you choose who's going to get the Veil. Okay? Which means that if you've got somebody that's squishy but hits hard, you can hide it behind this Veil, and there's less chance that you're going to be taking damage. Okay? If you don't place the freeze, you still Veil someone anyway for 1 turn. So that's actually still okay. But what you need to bear in mind is, this is his A1, and he's going to do his A2 and his A3 as a priority over his A1. So chances are, if you're trying to hide somebody, if they're able to survive for him to rotate 3 turns, then chances are they're already pretty tough. So I don't know how well this works in reality. I guess if you're talking about something like Clan Boss, where you are going to do this just on rotation, then you can just kind of be deciding who's going to get the Veil. And what does Veil do? Not only does it hide you, it also reduces the damage that you take from those AoE hits. So again, you can kind of decide who's going to be the target for this and try and reduce the damage they take. Now, what do I dislike about the A1? It's a freeze mechanic. So freeze is not going to work on bosses and stuff like that. So really, freeze is only going to be for wave-based content, okay? And on an A1, you're not going to use it very often. I feel like it's a little bit lost. The freeze part of it, I feel like it's a little bit lost. And actually, when they've changed his A2 up so that these debuffs cannot be resisted anymore, I just wish they'd said on his A1, this debuff cannot be resisted. That way, you don't need to ever consider building accuracy in his kits. And actually, I feel like his A1's got a bit more utility than it's got right now. Because right now, what I'm going to suggest to you here is, don't build accuracy in his kits. I would forget that there's a freeze at all. On a lot of wave content, actually, in fairness there, resistance is kind of low. So, apart from Doom Tower. So, you could just build low accuracy, like 100 to 150, and this will proc a reasonable amount at the time if you're just doing wave content. Similarly in the arena, unless someone's building resistance, they're probably not building resistance at all, which means that the freeze mechanic, even with a fairly low accuracy, is probably likely to proc if he ever gets around to using it. But yeah, this A2 then. AoE ability, On the website, you can kind of check out damage multipliers. This is rated as strong in a damage multiplier for all champions. And that means he's in like the top 50% of damage dealers, but not in that kind of like godlike real top end. So it's decent. Same with the A1. It's rated as strong. It's a decent top 50% hits. So book it out. 100% chance of placing decreased crit damage and decreased accuracy. So I guess the worst thing about the decreased crit damage debuff for me, I think it's one of the worst in the game actually. If you take someone who's got 200% crit damage and you reduce their crit damage by 30%, actually what that's going to do is take the 200 down to 170. Whereas if it was actually reduces the overall amount of crit damage by 30%, i.e. you take 200% crit damage and it reduces down to 133%, or 100, whatever it is, 135, that's a debuff. That's then a debuff that's actually got some viability. But honestly, for this debuff to be useful, it needs to change up. I think it's probably the worst. Similarly with increased crit damage, I guess it would work in reverse and maybe it would become overpowered as a buff. But as it stands right now, the debuff is useless and the buff is okay. So the decreased crit damage part of this debuff kit, although it can't be resisted, I think is kind of meh, whatever. But the decreased accuracy part of this kit, as we've got more and more content where we're getting slammed with high accuracy opponents and actually we want to try and resist some of their debuffs, especially Doom Tower, then this starts to become bigger and bigger. Same with the arena, less so I'd say, but you've got places like Doom Tower, any Dungeon 25 content, any kind of decreased accuracy just means there's a good chance you're going to take less debuffs on your team as long as you've built a bit of resistance. And I think it's especially good for Doom Tower. So I feel like you can get some use there. So a hard AoE hit, one rubbish debuff, one good situational debuff, and one okay buff for your team. We've then got the A3. 3-turn cooldown on this now, 3-turn cooldown here. So they're going to rotate through these really quick, actually. Places are strengthened, places increase defense. Two of the strongest defensive buffs in the game. It's a shame he doesn't do something else with it. Honestly, for a Void Legendary, I still feel like he could do something else with it. Attack someone, or I don't know. It just feels like maybe if he had a turn meter boost with it, there's still something missing to make him a Void Legendary champion, in my opinion. But he's better. And we've got here a defense in Doom Tower plus 40% for the aura. That's as big as I see, actually. That's a really strong defensive aura. So what am I doing? First off, you know what's going to happen. We're going to try and smack someone with this A1 and A2 and see if it actually does anything. So I've done full damage build. We're going to change this up. This is not how I would build him going forward, but we've gone for the crit damage, smacks. We've put him in Savage gear. We've given him over 100% crit rate, a high amount of defense, a high amount of crit damage. We're going to take him for a quick spin, smack something hard, hopefully, and then actually get him into something a bit more realistic. So some people say this is pointless. I guess it is, but I like to do it anyway, just to give us a bit of balance. So what's going on here? We've got increased defense, and he's got this kind of defensive passive that's going to give us a bit more. We've got increased crit damage, blah, blah, blah. We've got loads of damage going on, basically. Loads of damage. I'm interested to see actually what he does on auto as well. So I'm just going to run this through an auto and see if he decides to go. I guess maybe we've got strengthen up already, so he might just go A2. Let's slow it down. He goes A2, and I mean, actually, he's in good gear, and I'm buffed with crazy buffs here. But that's a good smack. That's as hard as we saw with Visix the other day. It's as hard as we see with people like Candrafon doing this type of nuke. So that's decent. It's decent damage. He's then done his strengthen and his increased defense. And then we're going to roll round to an A1. And obviously he gets back to his A2 really fast, but 130k on the A1. So can he hit hard? Yeah. And he's actually like an early to mid-game arena champion. Like, he's a nightmare for people going up against him early game. That's good damage, though, actually. 180 odd K across the board. So can he hit hard? Yes. And then when we get to things like bosses here, providing we get to it. Things like strengthen, I mean, that's just a straight 25% reduction of damage. Okay, it's a massive, massive debuff. Obviously, we can't place things like freeze on a boss. It's a bit of a letdown for his A1. But it does give us the kind of passive veil. Where did the veil go? Maybe it's already run through. Gives us a passive veil so that someone's going to take a bit less damage. And obviously we put things like the decreased crit damage and decreased accuracy on the boss so that when the dragon wants to do tries to place things like the weakens on us, well, it's just got less chance of doing it because we've basically removed 50% of that accuracy coming back at us. Decent damage though, actually. This is better than I thought it would be. See that resist. So you can kind of start to resist some of the debuffs coming back at you. He's actually done, what, 1.5 mil. We haven't really got anyone else doing damage in here, but that's solid damage numbers. So can he hit? Yes. Is that how I would build him? Probably not. But actually seeing him hit like that makes me think maybe it is just how I would build him. Maybe I would just go for a damage masteries and get him doing some damage. Originally I was thinking War Master all the way, because at least you've got like consistent damage coming out. I guess if we don't have Savage Gear and we don't have all those buffs, maybe we just re-gear him without the craziness and try that again and see what it actually looks like. Okay, so I've kept his gear good, but I've taken him out of Savage Gear now. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to try the same thing again actually, but without all of the crazy buffs going on around the outside of him. So take these two out, take him out. Let's just go with like a more standard team and see... just see what he does with that. Okay, let's do this. So basically he's the big boy in here. So we're going to go decrease defense. You still don't want that in your team. He still priors is A2 even when we're still doing like 40k damage across the board. It's solid damage. Solid damage even without Savage on. So I think actually, as long as you're not running him in Clan Boss, I would say this kind of Helm Smasher Mastery set is kind of good. I think maybe I would go Helm Smasher as my priority if I'm not running him in Clan Boss. Obviously, we've then got people like Nullhorn getting the defensive taunts up, coming in with the A1, 58k. Smacks again, 60 odd k there. Look at that, that's nice. He's a hard-hitting AoE defensive-based champion that can kind of just keep your team alive and help you through content. Pretty much where we're at. He's not going to be, I think, like top tier really anywhere, apart from maybe Doom Tower, where you desperately need to drop that accuracy. But again, like dropping accuracy here, it does help. So if you've got him and he's your legendary, and you know what, you're running with a bunch of other rares, yeah, he's probably in your team. He's probably going to get into your team, but I think as soon as you start to develop your roster out more, maybe he doesn't. So we get a bunch of resists. That's what the decreased accuracy is doing there. See how many resists we got? Like pumping 4 out each. It's actually big. Resistances against bosses is big. So look, let's move on. Let's move on to see something else. Where do I really feel like that decreased accuracy is best? Probably places like Ice Golem, where he's fighting against his nemesis. So somewhere like Ice Golem, you'd be bringing him in and decreasing the chance to be frozen or to get the debuffs from the side adds is actually pretty big. And obviously things like the strengthen, things like the increased defense, when you're talking about the actual boss fight here, they're massive buffs. You know, you're taking a lot of damage in Ice Golem. So that kind of retribution hits that he does when it gets a bit ropey, he's going to be able to kind of nullify a good amount of that damage. There's the obvious thing that we need to talk about here. He's the Frost King. He doesn't have an AoE freeze, and he's got one freeze on his A1, and it's not that easy to land. Come on, guys. The Frost King. He should have really Gergo's passive. Like whenever he takes a hit, there should be a chance to freeze. Day 2 again. Get that decreased accuracy out there. Just massive. Actually a massive debuff. The decreased crit damage is not much at all. Decreased accuracy is actually massive. Let's get ourselves on. A1. Oh, we did get a veil off. Okay. Maybe I'm missing it sometimes. Anyway, for this part of the fight, we can see it here. The ads are up. I just focus the boss so that we don't kill the ads off. Oh, he's killed one anyway. Strengthens there. And honestly, it's just solid. The strengthen buff with increased defense as well. He's just, I mean, increased defense when there's 2 ads up actually does nothing because he ignores 100% defense, but the strengthen does do something. It negates 25% of whatever the hit's going to be. It's just huge. So look, I think any dungeon, so I could show you any dungeon, he's doing the same thing. Finite's going to be his weakest because he's just got no multi-hits or any kind of chance of multi-hits. And honestly, decrease accuracy against Finite. It's okay. You might stop yourself taking a decreased speed, but honestly, it's not going to be what you need. So, and similarly in Spider, I mean, the decreased accuracy is nice so that you're not taking so much poison. Maybe that's really worthwhile, but I feel like this is his dungeon to shine, where he's up against his nemesis, trying to do some work. So let's take him into, I think we'll take him into the arena next and see what he can do there. So we've got the Nightmare of Bronze 2, Silver 1, whatever. The thing you don't want to see in early game is a massively defensive comp full of legendary champions. Okay? Late game, like if I'm facing this now, this is easy. It's easy to beat once you've got champions that do a ton of damage. You've got the gear to get through it. But defensive comps early on is a nightmare. And this is really where Wurlim is going to shine in the arena, not late game. Late game, I think, you know what? We can take some hits, but he's not going to shine at this point. But just being on a defensive team, like I'm not going to battle this out myself. Just being on a defensive team like this, if he starts to get some of his abilities away, which we're struggling to do here, but if he does, then the team's in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble. Because what he actually ends up doing, so we've not managed to do it at all here, what he ends up doing is placing things like the strengthen, placing things like the decreased accuracy on the enemy, and honestly, it's a nightmare to deal with. So, you know, if you can't kill a defensive team first go, you're in a lot of trouble. So we start to get the strengthen out now. It's late. We might still have a chance to do something here. We get the decreased accuracy and crit damage out. He actually hit really hard with that, considering we've got no decreased defense in my team. And eventually, we've won. You know, is this going to work through Gold 4 consistently? Probably not. Like this team here should really just nuke us down. But if they don't, if they fail to beat us first attempt, like that freeze there coming on from Tormund, great. There goes the decreased accuracy. There goes the decreased crit damage, which is an okay debuff, but not a good one. And from this point on, strengthen's now on. Increased defense is now up. And honestly, they've got a tough time beating us once we get turns. But someone did say to me in a stream the other day, like, you know, what's good speeds for a go second team? And I was like, well, there isn't one. You're already dead. Pretty much. Like, there's not much of a meta in this kind of go second comp. Because basically you take the initiative away. And the trouble with Wurlim is I feel like his best spot is in a go second comp, but you know, it's not going to be a consistent victory for you. So, you know, if there was anywhere where you kind of maybe you want him playing, maybe it's to get out that debuff, decreased accuracy debuff before some of these, you know, people that are reliant on landing things like your Madams and stuff like that. If you were a high resistance team and you wanted to use him in that high resistance team, but also wanted to make sure that you weren't being debuffed, then potentially plays in that space. But honestly, outside of a 3 versus 3 team, I can't see him going into teams. Just can't see it. Faction Wars, he's going to be awesome for. It's not open right now, but he will be awesome for that. That debuff of decreased accuracy and the strengthen and what have you is going to be really good, especially for the boss fights. Now, here's a controversial thing, and I can't show you because I'm not on the right level, but when you get onto hard Doom Tower, higher levels, we're talking 80 plus, I think, there's certain waves where you face multiple Wurlims. Multiple. And at the moment, we can deal with them. But now, he's going to be throwing at you decreased accuracy, decreased crit damage, and you can't resist it. So I wonder if the buff is a bigger buff for Doom Tower than it is for us. Controversial. I wonder if this is a bigger buff for Doom Tower than it is for us in the game. I mean, you certainly can take him in. So you could take him into somewhere like, I guess, Scarab Boss maybe. You could take him. Is it really worthwhile here? Not so much. I think if I was using him for this debuff in particular, it would be probably the bosses from the last 2 cycles. I think you could run him through waves. You could bring him into waves and try and remove some of the chance to take freezes. I'm probably just straight up too powerful right now to be able to even really show you him in action. Maybe I shouldn't have brought in Big Boots, but he can nuke his way through waves. He can help you remove some of the accuracy for these guys. Certainly when you get higher up, it's going to be more relevant. And obviously it can give you more survivability for waves as well. But I don't know, guys. Like, the more I'm using him, the more I'm thinking, I feel like Visic's got out of the vault. I'm not sure if Wurlim's really getting out of the vault with this buff. I'm not sure that he is. Comment below if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that he is. One place I'm going to show you last is Clan Boss. And for Clan Boss, actually, there's some stuff that I think could be useful. So let's try that. Okay, so we've reworked him for Clan Boss. I'm going to throw Wurlim in alongside Vogoth for a leech. I'm going to throw him alongside Tyrell for a decreased attack. We've got Frozen Banshee coming in for some poison. And is that it? I think that's it. Did I call that enough? I think I called that enough. Anyway, what we've done with him, I've made him like the slowest in the team, or the person who's going to go last in my rotation, so that I can get the increased defense and strengthen before the Clan Boss does his smacks. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw it so that the A1 procs on the stun turn. So because he's got a 3-turn cooldown on all skills now, he's actually pretty Clan Boss viable. Like, we can throw him into a Ultra Nightmare team. You can throw him in with some like heavyweights, and he would do a solid job. But is he going to be... Oh, he's a candy. Is he going to be top tier? Is he going to be like pushing up some crazy teams? I don't think he is. I think he's just a bit underwhelming still. I feel like, again, like if you're a mid-game account and you pull him, sure, you're going to be putting him in your Clan Boss team because he's going to be bringing something else. But other than that, I'm not really sure where he's going to be played. So we're doing this. I do need one more. Let's have someone who's going to clean off the debuffs. It's just throwing a Doom Priest. So this is going to be like a high damage team. All I'm really looking for is to see, what's he actually going to bring to the table. So his A2 is still his like initial ability he's going to use. You're going to want to manual this, and I'll reset it after this rotation. You're going to want to manual so that his A3 is actually the thing he does first, ideally. Okay, so we've reset it. So this is what I would actually do. You just have to manual literally the first ability, and that's it. So you just want to come in and just do your first rotation. Going to do A3 first. Ideally, he's slower than everyone. I've actually made him slightly quicker than Frozen Banshee here by mistake. Ideally, he's the slowest, so you get 2 turns worth of strengthen and increased defense on everyone. And then that way, he is going to give you your best chance of survival over the AoE hits. And that's pretty much what you're doing with him. After that, it's full auto. And you've reduced the crit damage a touch on the Clan Boss. It's nothing really. You've reduced the accuracy on the Clan Boss. It's nothing. So you can't resist what he's doing. So none of that stuff's really helping us. But the strengthen and the increased defense is kind of all he's in there for, honestly. That's all he's going to be doing. And is that enough to warrant him in your Clan Boss team? Well, he will give you long legs. Like, it'll give you a long fight. So if you've got someone like a Vizier running in your team and you're trying to extend poison for the maximum duration of time, and that type of thing, then potentially he's strong. But again, I think as soon as you start getting better champions, I mean, if you're able to get something like Unkillable going, then there's just no way he features in a team. No way. But I guess with the strength and with the increased defense, he's solid. He's a solid unit for Clan Boss. I just think with the amount of available options nowadays, there's just way better out there. So guys, honestly, overall evaluation, I think he packs a solid punch. He can hit reasonably hard, which is cool. He is going to be decent for Doom Tower, some of the bosses, if you want to try and reduce some of their accuracy. But I think he's just Mr. Mediocre. I think they've not done enough. There's not enough. I don't feel like a genuine use case for, that's where you should be playing him, or that's the team, that's the type of utility he's bringing for you. It's literally just, he's bringing you a bit of survivability, and if you badly want decreased accuracy, it's going to help you to not take a bunch of debuffs from bosses. So I guess I'm still a bit underwhelmed. I guess I've got 4 of him. I was hoping for a bit more than looks like he's going back in the vault. The best possible place for him is going to be Night Revs, Faction War, because that is actually a really tough faction. But again, there's quite a lot of epics now that have come up through the ranks that are also good defensive or support-based units. So even there, I don't feel like he's crazy good. He's still good, but I don't know. I'm a bit underwhelmed. Maybe I'm not showing him in the right way. Please comment below. What did I miss? What would you have done? But yeah, Wurlim the Frost King, still frosty, still in the vault. What a shame. I've been Hell Hades. I will see you later.